welcome to another edition of Granny's Square Tuesday. If you're unfamiliar with this series, I am making a square out of this book each week and showing it to you guys, showing you my version, giving you my thoughts on it. I will be making a floral spring themed type of throw. I'm sorry, my computer is like right at the top of the screen there. So that is the idea behind this. And I'm also hoping that maybe I'll be able to gain enough confidence through doing this to maybe start designing my own granny squares. This is week 3. So in the book, I'll show you their version of week 3. Now I'm not doing these in order. I'm just going through the books and only doing the ones that have sort of a floral design. But this one is this is the next one that I did, and I have no idea how to pronounce that. I think it's Jolie Fleur square. The last two squares were done by a lady named Susana from Argentina. This one is designed by a lady named Marie from France. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the rest of her name because I will butcher it severely. So let me show you the square. This is my version of the square. So if you guys watched week 1 and week 2, you'll already know that this outside color is Red Heart Super Saver in the colorway Buff. And then I decided this week to change up my flower colors a little bit. The first 2 weeks I used colors that were the same. I used some of the same colors in the second one that I did in the first one. But anyways, this pink color is Red Heart Super Saver Petal Pink. And then this center color is, I believe it's called Burnt Orange. It was leftovers that I had from making, it might be pumpkin. I'm not sure. It might be called pumpkin. I know it was leftover scrap yarn from a cardigan that I made for a family member who is a huge University of Texas fan. Their colors are burnt orange and white, and so I had a little scrap yarn from that. So I decided to do the kind of burnt orange color with the petal pink. This one was pretty easy. It's a much more solid square compared to last week's. I actually do have last week's square with me. So this is last week's square, and you can see it's much more open. I think this one would be good for maybe a fall type of a garment. If I were gonna use it to make a garment, I would choose something like this, because then it wouldn't be too hot and it would still give you a little bit of warmth. This one, however, I would probably use for more of a wintry type of a garment, just because it's a closed stitch, or it's a closed pattern, and it's a flat pattern. So like I said, I didn't have too many problems working this one up, although once again for the 3rd week in a row I did try to follow the written directions, and I did mess it up a little bit. So this slip stitches in between the petals here, it said to slip stitch over the slip stitch from the previous round, and when it said over, I thought that I was just supposed to put another slip stitch into that slip stitch. What they actually meant, after looking at the diagram, was this slip stitch was supposed to go down over the top of this slip stitch and into this row here, which would have given a little bit more definition in between each of the petals. So I did kind of, I mean, when I realized that, I could have gone back and torn it apart, and I wasn't gonna frog it. I decided just to fudge it. It's not that big a deal. So there was that. I really got to try to remember not to focus so much on the written instructions and try to, you know, look at the diagram a little bit better or a little bit more, just because I am having some problems with following the written instructions on these squares. Here's what the back looks like. Since it is, for the most part, you know, since it's a solid type of a granny square, I didn't have much to weave in. I just crocheted over the top of my tails. I really like how this one turned out. I think so far it's turned out the best. It is so far the only one that is very flat. It doesn't have any raised type of stitches. This is week 2. This was last week's square, and it's pretty flat too, but I didn't care for the way that the petals were attached to the rest of it. It goes through the back bump instead of maybe like the whole chain. For one thing, I mean, for durability, it's not probably, that's going to be a weak point as far as durability goes. And I'm not sure I care for the way that it looks. I really feel like maybe I should have just gone through the chain space and linked them like this. I do think it would have given it a tighter look as well. So that's actually week 2, and then for comparison purposes I will pull out and I will also show you guys week 1. So these are the 3 that I have made so far. This was week 1, and you can see I used the white and the yellow and the green for week 2, and then I decided to change the colors up for week 3. And you can see week 2 is clearly the largest one, and then week 1 is the only one that has, you know, a substantial amount of raised stitches here. Now this one I would probably only use for a blanket or something of that nature, maybe a bag, just because of how raised it is. You know, it's even got a little bit of cupping here in the back, and I don't know if that's going to change when I block these or not. I don't have a lot of experience with granny squares, so when I go to block these, I think I have to stretch them out to the largest square. So I think that these would have to get stretched out to at least, you know, the same size as the largest square. I don't know. Now the stitch count is the same all the way around. I don't know, because I've never blocked anything before other than to sort of steam block. I have steam blocked some things, but I bought a blocking board for me to like put them on, you know, and dampen them and let them dry that way. See, this one as well is much smaller, and this one is also tighter. I noticed that my stitches are tighter, but there's a lot of single crochet and half double crochet in this 3rd square than there is in the 2nd square. If you look, the 2nd square, there is, you know, this is kind of traditional granny square, these rows here. Also with the 2nd square, and I didn't mention this in my video last week, if you look really closely, you can tell that these are not facing the right way. This row is not facing the right way, and that is because this was supposed to be worked in a spiral type of a manner, but the way I joined this round put me in a position where if I was going to be able to work my cluster of 3 in between here, I would have to turn my work. So again, I just went ahead and I fudged that, went ahead and worked this row in I guess backwards, and then when I finished that row I turned again, and then the outside row is facing the right way. I don't think that you can really tell too much, but this whole thing has definitely been an experience. I'm really having a good time with it. It's been a huge learning experience, just because I don't do granny squares typically. I'm learning a lot of things now. I have experimented here and there a little bit with you know, different techniques as far as joining and changing colors and things like that. I believe in the book the invisible join is what is recommended for most of these squares, and color changes and things like that. The color changes, what I've noticed is a lot of time is they'll have you do one row and then fasten off and then reattach a different color, which is fine if you want to do it that way, but I don't want to weave in a bunch of ends. I don't want to have to weave in an end every time I change my colors, so I try to find ways where I can change color and then crochet over the top of them, over the tails, to the best of my ability, because at the end of this project I just don't want to have so many tails to weave in. If I have to base the size of my throw off of this one, because it is my largest square, if I were to stretch these other 2 out to match this one's size, this square measures 6.5 inches without being blocked, and that is week 2's square. This one is called the Season of Daisies, and then this one was only 5.5 inches, so I would have to figure out a way to stretch this a full inch for me to get it to the same exact size. And then this one is 6 inches, so it would have to stretch 1/2 inch. If you guys have any experience with blocking granny squares, let me know if that's even possible, or if that's something I really need to worry about as far as, you know, how much they stretch when they're blocked. I know that when they're blocked it will look less wonky along the sides, you know, the sides will be straighter, but yeah, I mean, I'm really pleased with how this is going. I'm having a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot. Also, I did forget to mention, I am using a 5.75 millimeter hook. This is my Christmas kitty hook. You guys have seen me show these hooks a lot on my channel. They are hand sculpted. The tip is a boy hook, but the lady that makes these do have them. She does have them available in Clover and in Susan Bates as well. And then she sculpts the handle. Now this particular one is no longer available in her shop. I'm not entirely sure why that is. Maybe it was just a Christmas you know, seasonal one, but I will link her Etsy shop down in the description box below. I always love to you know, help promote other Etsy shops, other small handmade businesses. I really like to do that. Also in the description box I will link where you can get the book that I'm using to do all of this, as well as the I will list the designers for this square as well as these two, because these two were actually designed by the same lady. And I'll go ahead and I'll list the designers as well as their social media in case any of you guys want to check them out. Yeah, you guys will eventually have to let me know which square is your favorite, you know, let me know what you think of my colors. I'd love to hear opinions. Mostly because I've never done this and I have no experience with it at all. The only thing I've ever made with granny squares was a pair of granny square skull pants, and I do have that tutorial on my channel, but the square was not designed by me, but I did do a tutorial video on other techniques on how to make that square, because I found in the comments of the original designer's video that there were a lot of people having trouble figuring out how she did it. So I did a video on other techniques so that people could still get the same design with, you know, using different techniques or whatever. But other than that, and I turned that into a pair of pants for somebody. Somebody had, it was a custom order for someone, and they wanted like skull granny square pants. But that is the only thing that I've ever really made with granny squares. So this whole thing is definitely going to be it's a new experience. So yeah, I will definitely link and put all of that information in the description box below for you guys. That is all I have for you for Granny Square Tuesday this week. Let me know in the comments how you guys are liking this series. You know, if you have a favorite square, let me know. These are my first 3. Maybe, you know, in the next couple of weeks I can show you maybe the first 6. It depends on how many I can get on my screen. But maybe in a couple of weeks I will be able to show you guys the first 6 or whatever on screen. But I thought week 3 was a good week to do a little bit of a comparison along with discussing the 3rd square. So yeah, thoughts, comments, those are always appreciated. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you guys are enjoying this series. I know I really am. So yeah, I guess I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!